It would be inaccurate to describe Howard Phillips Lovecraft as a man with issues. It's more like he was a bundle of issues shambling around in a roughly bipedal approximation of a man, chronically depressed, hypersensitive to criticism, almost certainly agoraphobic, prone to horrible nightmares and nervous breakdowns, and thoroughly racist even by the standards of the time. It'd be easy to come to the conclusion that H.P. Lovecraft was simply afraid of everything. But this isn't true either. He was just afraid of everything that wasn't his hometown of Providence, Rhode Island. Red from Overly Sarcastic Productions. Hi, hello, and welcome again everybody to another episode of Natural Juan. This time around we're going to discuss the life and works of American horror writer Howard Phillips Lovecraft, the man who would go on to be a huge influence on American horror literature. Before all that though, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications. Also, special shout out to my patron in Patreon, Jonathan Green. If you'd also like to support my channel and what I do here, you'll find my Patreon information in the description below, along with the Gcash and PayPal information if you'd just like to make a quick one-time donation. Alright then, with all that out of the way, let's all take a dive into the world of H.P. Lovecraft. Now we've had our discussion about the Cthulhu mythos and some of the gods the people there worship, but now let's start with the man who started it all. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, or H.P. Lovecraft, was born to a rich family in August 20, 1890 in Providence, Rhode Island. His childhood could be best described as one that was comfortable, if not luxurious, having access to his family's vast library. However, all that came to an end when his grandfather died, leaving him gradually sinking into poverty. He began his career writing pulp stories for various magazines, which gradually grew in popularity, but sadly, wouldn't reach the lofty heights they've gained in the modern age. Some of his most popular works include the following. We'll start with The Dunwich Horror, which was noted for being more lighthearted in comparison to some of the more horrifying works that would follow. It follows the story of Wilbur Whately, who was born to a very strange mother and was possessed of a very strange childhood. For one thing, it was as if he grew too quickly, and there was also a hint that he is somehow other than human. For another, he constantly searched for the Necronomicon, a book that contains ancient secret magic that is both evil and dangerous. He attempts to steal said book from the local library of Dunwich, which is currently protected by a Professor Armitage. Whately is then slain by a dog protecting the library of all things, and it is discovered that Whately was never really human to begin with. To make matters worse, it turns out that he has a truly monstrous evil twin that has the power to become invisible and is wandering the town, destroying all that it encounters. While the story has had numerous adaptations over the years, the vast majority of them were either hated or ignored due to poor acting, lackluster special effects, badly altered parts of the story, or all three. That said, the Necronomicon has become a staple of horror and dark fantasy and can even be heard mentioned in various other media from literature, film, video games, and animation. Then we have the Mountains of Madness, which takes place in the Antarctic, where a group of scientists have traveled after hearing about a strange discovery there. They then find out that there is an ancient city hidden among the icy wastes of the strange continent, and that it is far from abandoned or empty. Led by a geologist named William Dyer, the scientists travel deeper into the city and behold horrors and wonders beyond imagining. It is here that they learn about the Elder Things, bizarre aliens who are somehow more similar to humans than other creatures in the mythos, despite the fact that they have powers and abilities that seem almost miraculous in nature and have technology that strains the understanding of most humans. It is also here that the scientists discover the abominable Shoggoths, horrific creatures with amorphous bodies that were used by the extremely advanced Elder Things to be used as living tools and equipment. It is here that the Cthulhu mythos is presented as more science fiction than fantasy or occult horror, as the monsters are thought to be products of science rather than magic. Another gem by H.P. Lovecraft is the story The Rats in the Walls, which contains very little supernatural elements and is also thought to be quite racist in nature. The more questionable parts of the story revolve around the protagonist narrator's cat, who has a rather controversial name, but I won't be discussing that here. It follows the story of an heir who is troubled by his experiences in World War I and has recently acquired a vast amount of property from his ancestors. He goes to his estate, the Exham Priory, and there hopes to begin life anew and heal his distraught mind. Unfortunately, things only get worse as he hears the scratching of rats in his walls, and once he goes searching for them, he discovers a horrible truth: that his ancestors were in fact depraved cannibals and had kept countless others chained and caged within the caves beneath the estate to be treated as human swine that could be fed upon. This drives the narrator mad, leading him to kill his own companion and devour his flesh. Ignoring the more ethnically insulting parts of the story, as well as the more improbable elements such as using human beings as livestock, one can probably say that it is quite horrifying in its realism, as there are many wealthy families and organizations that prey on the weak and impoverished. In fact, this story probably inspired a lot of deformed cannibal films out there like Wrong Turn, The People Under the Stairs, and The Hills Have Eyes. Then we have The Call of Cthulhu, which is probably the most popular. Well, at least its title is the most popular, what with having so many games, both computerized and tabletop, that have been adapted from it. In any case, Call of Cthulhu implies that all things are somehow connected, and not in a good way. The story is written more as a manuscript rather than a long narrative, starting with the work of a sculptor named Henry Wilcox being interviewed by a Professor Angle, who seems interested in his bizarre and disturbing sculptures, the most memorable of which being a squatting creature that has the features of a man, an octopus, and a dragon. The second part of the story follows the reports of a police officer named John Raymond Legrasse, who is part of a raid against a sinister cult in New Orleans. The third and last part chronicles an encounter between the crew aboard a Norwegian yacht, the Alert, and the Squid God himself, all told from the perspective of a young sailor named Gustav Johansen. For something completely different, we have the story Sweet Ermengarde, which also has the title The Heart of a Country Girl, which was published sometime around 1920. And before you ask, no, there are no otherworldly monsters in this story as you'd expect from H.P. Lovecraft. Also note that while there are many horrible people in this story, it's not exactly shown to be as horrific as that portrayed in other stories. We follow the adventures and misadventures of a young woman named Ethel Ermengarde Stubbs, who insists that she is 16, despite probably being in her 30s. She is thought to be a beautiful blonde, whose blondness comes from a bottle of dye, and beloved by everyone in her town, likely because her late father owned so much land. She is currently courted by two prominent men, the heroic Jack Manley and the villainous Squire Hardman. Needless to say, hilarity ensues. There are many other notable stories written by H.P. Lovecraft, from the truly horrifying Color from Outer Space that features an alien that seems to be an otherworldly light or radiation, to the Cats of Ulthar that have supernatural cats in them. There is also his story about ghouls in Pickman's model, and there's the novel Shadow over Innsmouth that has an extremely disturbing take on mermaids. There are countless others too, from The Shadow Out of Time about a man who finds himself swapping bodies with alien entities, to the truly dreadful Cats and Dogs, wherein Lovecraft states plainly why cats are better than dogs. Sadly, Lovecraft would die in relative obscurity of intestinal cancer in March 15, 1937. Most of his stories at the time were almost entirely forgotten were it not for the efforts of his students like August Derleth and Robert Bloch. That said, no one expected the sudden resurgence of popularity for his work, which were in turn heavily influenced by other great horror writers like Algernon Blackwood, Edgar Allan Poe, and Lord Dunsany. Many modern horror and fantasy writers like Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Brian Lumley, Charles Stross, and Jim Butcher either cite him as an inspiration or show some elements of his work in their own stories. The works of Lovecraft are also surprisingly popular among modern creepypasta writers and creators of Japanese adult entertainment. In any case, it's very unlikely his work will lose popularity soon, as more and more horror writers rely on many tropes and ideas he came up with all those years ago, from terrible alien gods that only seek to use humanity as a tool, to the horror brought about at the sight of awful creatures. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Natural Juan. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, Please feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications if you want more content like this. If you want to support my channel and what I do here, please check out my Patreon information in the description below, where you'll also find PayPal and GCash information in case you'd just like to make a quick one-time donation. Natural Juan,